The rain was falling hard on Seoul that night. Kang Tae-ho walked out of his office building and looked up at the dark sky. He was tired. He had been working on satellite designs for 12 hours, and his eyes hurt from staring at computer screens. All he wanted was to go home, eat some instant noodles, and sleep. He opened his umbrella and started walking toward his apartment. The streets were mostly empty. Most people were smart enough to stay inside during a monsoon like this. But Tae-ho lived only 15 minutes away, and he did not want to wait for the rain to stop. The streetlights made the wet road shine like glass. Tae-ho listened to the sound of rain hitting his umbrella. It was peaceful in a strange way. He liked these quiet moments when the city felt like it belonged only to him. Then he saw her. A woman stood in the middle of the sidewalk about 20 meters ahead. She was not moving. She had no umbrella and the rain was pouring down on her, but she did not seem to care. Her hair was long and silver white, falling past her shoulders like moonlight. Her skin was pale, almost glowing under the streetlight. She wore a long dark coat that looked like it came from another time or another place. Tae-ho slowed down. Something felt wrong. The woman was staring directly at him. Her eyes were violet, a color he had never seen in human eyes before. They seemed to glow faintly in the darkness. He thought about crossing the street to avoid her, but that felt silly. She was probably just lost or waiting for someone. He kept walking, planning to pass by her quickly. But when he got close, the woman spoke. "Kang Tae-ho," she said. Her voice was soft but clear, cutting through the sound of the rain. "Born on March 15th. Blood type, oh, you have a small scar on your left shoulder from when you fell off your bicycle at age 7. Your sister's name is Yuna. You are afraid of deep water because you almost drowned when you were 10. Tae-ho stopped walking. His heart began to beat faster. How did she know all of this? He had never seen this woman before in his life. "Who are you?" he asked. His voice came out more scared than he wanted. The woman took a step closer. Up close, she was beautiful in a way that did not feel natural. Her features were too perfect, too smooth, and those violet eyes seemed to look right through him. "My name is Lyra," she said. "I am your wife. I have come to take you home." Tae-ho stared at her. Then he laughed nervously. "Okay, this is some kind of joke, right? Did Sungwoo put you up to this? Is there a camera somewhere?" He looked around, expecting to see his best friend hiding behind a car, laughing at him. But there was no one, just the empty street and the falling rain. "This is not a joke," Lyra said. Her face showed no emotion. "You and I were married 3 years ago by the time of my world. We were bonded in the sacred ceremony of my people. You chose me. You loved me." "Lady, I have never met you before," Tae-ho said. He started to walk around her. "I think you have the wrong person, or maybe you need some help. There is a hospital nearby." He did not finish his sentence. One moment he was walking past her. The next moment she was standing in front of him again. She had moved so fast that his eyes could not follow her. Tae-ho stumbled backward and almost fell. How did you do that?" Lyra looked at him with something like sadness in her eyes. "I am not human, Tae-ho. I never was." She opened her mouth slightly and he saw them. Her canine teeth were long and sharp, like the fangs of a predator. Her violet eyes changed too. The pupils became vertical slits like a cat's eyes, and her pale skin began to shimmer faintly, as if tiny lights were moving just beneath the surface. Tae-ho's umbrella fell from his hand. The rain immediately soaked his hair and clothes, but he did not notice. He was frozen in fear. "What are you?" he whispered. "I am Velith," Lyra said. "My people are old. We have lived among the stars for thousands of years. We survive by forming bonds with other beings, emotional bonds, spiritual bonds. We share life energy with those we love. Some species call us vampires, but we do not kill, we do not take without giving." She reached into her coat and pulled out a small silver device. She pressed something on it, and a light appeared in the air above her hand. It was a hologram showing a moving image. Tiho saw himself in the hologram. He was standing in a strange room with walls made of something that looked like crystal. He was wearing clothes he did not recognize, and beside him stood Lyra, wearing a white dress. They were holding hands, looking at each other with love in their eyes. Behind them, other pale figures watched and smiled. "This was our bonding ceremony," Lyra said. "You spoke the sacred words. You promised to find me across any distance. You said death itself could not separate us." "No," Tiho said. His voice was shaking. "No, this is not real. I have never been to space. I have never seen you before tonight. I would remember this." "You would," Lyra agreed, "but your memories were taken." "What?" "You chose to forget," she said. "After we escaped the prison ship together, you learned that enemies were looking for you. If they found you on Earth, they would destroy your world to punish you. So you decided to have your memories removed. You returned to Earth with no knowledge of what had happened. You did it to protect your people, to protect your sister." Tiho shook his head. This was insane. This could not be real, but the hologram looked so real. And somehow, looking at himself standing next to Lyra, he felt something deep in his chest, a feeling he could not name, like an echo of something lost. "Why are you here now?" he asked. "Why tell me this?" Lyra turned off the hologram. Her face became serious and worried. "Because they found you anyway," she said. "The Corvex Dominion, the empire that imprisoned my people. They traced the bond between us. Our souls are connected, Tiho. Even without your memories, the thread between us still exists. They are using it to find the last survivors of my kind." She looked up at the sky. "They are already here." Tiho followed her gaze. At first he saw nothing but dark clouds and rain. Then the clouds began to glow from above. Something was moving behind them, something huge. The clouds parted and Tiho saw ships. Black ships, shaped like blades, floating silently above the city. There were dozens of them. They made no sound, but their presence felt heavy, like the air itself was being pressed down. Across the city, car alarms began to go off. People started screaming in the distance. Lights flickered in the buildings around them. "What do they want?" Tiho asked. His voice was barely a whisper. "They want you," Lyra said. "They want me, and they will burn this world to get us." She took his hand. Her skin was cool but soft. "I know you do not remember me," she said. "I know you have no reason to trust me, but I am asking you to come with me. Let me protect you. Let me help you remember who you really are." Tiho looked at the ships in the sky. He looked at the strange woman holding his hand. Nothing made sense. His whole world had just been turned upside down. But somewhere deep inside him, past the fear and confusion, he felt something else. He felt like he was finally waking up from a long sleep, like a part of him had been missing, and now it was calling out to be found. He did not know if he could trust her. He did not know if anything she said was true, but he knew one thing for certain: staying here was not an option. "Okay," he said finally, "show me the truth." Lyra's violet eyes softened. For just a moment she looked relieved, maybe even happy. "Follow me," she said, "and stay close. The night is about to become very dangerous." She pulled him into the rain, and together they ran into the darkness, leaving his old life behind. Tiho followed Lyra through the dark streets of Seoul. The rain was still falling hard, and the black ships above moved slowly across the sky like hungry animals looking for food. People were running everywhere, screaming and crying. Cars crashed into each other as drivers looked up at the sky instead of the road. Lyra moved fast, pulling Tiho through alleys and side streets he had never known existed. She seemed to know exactly where she was going. Her violet eyes scanned everything around them, watching for danger. "Where are we going?" Tiho asked between breaths. He was already tired from running. "Somewhere safe," Lyra said. "My people built hiding places on many worlds. There is one beneath the Han River. The Corvex do not know about it." They reached the river 20 minutes later. Lyra led him down to the water's edge. where old concrete walls met the dark water. She pressed her hand against a section of the wall that looked exactly like every other section. A blue light scanned her palm, and suddenly a door appeared where there had been only concrete before. "Inside," she said, quickly. They entered a narrow tunnel that sloped downward. Lights on the walls turned on as they walked, glowing with a soft blue color. The air was cool and dry. After walking for several minutes, they reached a large room. Tiho stopped and looked around in wonder. The room was filled with strange technology. Screens floated in the air, showing images of the city above. Crystal containers held glowing liquids. The walls themselves seemed alive, pulsing gently with soft light. "This is a Velith safe house," Lyra said. "It has been here for 200 years waiting." "Waiting for what?" Tiho asked. "For a time when it would be needed." She turned to face him. "Sit down, I will explain everything." Tiho sat on something that looked like a chair but felt like water holding his shape. It was strange but comfortable. Lyra stood before him, her face serious. "My people, the Velith, are dying," she began. "We were once a great civilization. We lived on a beautiful world called Veloria, but the Corvex Dominion wanted our planet. They wanted our technology. When we refused to surrender, they destroyed our world. Billions of my people died in a single day." Her voice remained calm, but Tiho could see pain in her eyes. "The survivors scattered across the galaxy," she continued. "We hid on many worlds trying to stay alive, but the Corvex hunted us. They called us parasites. They told other species that we were dangerous, that we drained the life from other beings. It was a lie, but many believed it." "You said you survived through bonds," Tiho said. "What does that mean exactly?" Lyra moved closer to him. "The Velith cannot survive alone. Our bodies need emotional energy, spiritual connection. When we bond with another being, we share life force. We give as much as we take. A true bond makes both partners stronger, healthier, longer-lived. But without a bond, a Velith slowly weakens and dies." She paused. "Most species fear us. They think we are monsters. But 5 years ago, by your Earth time, I met a human who did not see me that way. He saw me as a person. He chose to love me." "Me?" Tiho said quietly. "Yes." Lyra's voice became softer. "You were taken from Earth by accident. A Corvex slave ship made an error and captured several humans along with their intended targets. You were put in a prison with my people. We were all going to be sold or killed." She sat down across from him. "You were scared at first, all the humans were, but you did not break, you watched, you learned. You found ways to help others. When the guards beat a young Velith child, you stood between them and took the beating yourself." Tiho felt something stir inside him. He could not remember any of this, but somehow it felt true. It felt like something he would do. "I noticed you," Lyra said. "I watched you help others when there was no benefit to yourself. When we finally escaped that ship, you were the one who figured out how to unlock the doors. You led people to safety. And when it was over, when we were free, you came to me." Her eyes met his. "You said you had never met anyone like me. You said I was beautiful, not despite what I was, but including it. You said my fangs were cute." Despite everything, Tiho almost smiled. That definitely sounded like something he would say. "We spent months together," Lyra continued. "You helped my people find shelter. You learned our language, our customs. And one day you asked me if Velith could marry humans. I told you about the bonding ceremony. I told you it would connect our souls forever. You said you wanted that. You said you had never been more sure of anything." She reached out and touched his hand. Her cool fingers sent a strange warmth through his body. "But then we learned that the Corvex were searching for you specifically. The human who helped Velith escape. They tracked your DNA. If they found Earth, they would destroy it as punishment. You could not let that happen." "So I chose to forget," Tiho said. "Yes, a Velith elder removed your memories. We sent you back to Earth with no knowledge of your time among the stars. You would be safe. Your world would be safe, but our bond remained. It cannot be broken, even by memory loss, and the Corvex eventually learned to track the bond itself. Before Tiho could respond, there was a sound from the entrance tunnel. Footsteps, heavy breathing. Lyra was on her feet instantly, her body tense and ready to fight. Then a familiar voice called out, "Tiho, are you in here?" It was Yuna, his sister. She appeared in the doorway, soaking wet and scared. Behind her was Sungwoo, his best friend, looking equally terrified. "Yuna," Tiho jumped up and ran to her. "How did you find this place?" "I followed you," Yuna said, hugging him tightly. "I saw you running with her from my window. I tried to call you, but the phones are not working. I grabbed Sungwoo and we followed your path." She pulled back and looked at Lyra with wide eyes. "Who is she? What is happening? There are alien ships in the sky." Tiho looked at Lyra, then back at his sister. "This is Lyra, she says. She says she is my wife." "You're what?" Sungwoo said loudly. "Tiho, have you lost your mind?" But Yuna was staring at Lyra with a strange expression. Not fear exactly, more like recognition. "I know you," Yuna said slowly. "I have seen you before." "That is not possible," Sungwoo said. "She is clearly not from Earth. Look at her eyes, her hair." "Not in person," Yuna interrupted. "In dreams. For years I have had dreams about a silver woman. I could never see her face clearly, but she was always looking for someone, always searching. And Tiho, you talk in your sleep sometimes. You say her name, Lyra." The room became very quiet. Tiho felt a chill run down his spine. He talked about her in his sleep, even without memories. Lyra stepped forward. "The bond between us affects those closest to him. Your soul has felt the echo of our connection through your brother. The dreams were real in a way." Yuna took a deep breath. She was scared, but she was also strong. She had always been the brave one in their family. "Tell me everything," she said to Lyra. "No lies, no hiding. If my brother is connected to you, I need to understand." Lyra told them everything. The war, the prison ship, the escape and the love that grew between her and Tiho, the painful choice he made to protect Earth, and now the return of the enemy. When she finished, Sungwoo sat down heavily. "This is insane. This cannot be real." But Yuna was looking at Tiho. "Do you believe her?" Tiho thought about it. The hologram, the feelings he could not explain, the way something inside him responded to Lyra's presence like a plant turning toward the sun. "I think I do," he said. "I think she is telling the truth." "Then what do we do?" Yuna asked. Lyra looked at Tiho with hope and fear mixed together. "I can try to restore your memories. Our bonding created a backup of everything you were. It is stored in my own mind. But the process is dangerous. It has killed non-Velith before. Their minds could not handle the return of so much at once." "But humans are different," Tiho asked. "Humans are strange," Lyra said. "Your species has a psychological strength that others do not. You hold on to your sense of self even when everything else is taken away. You are stubborn in a way that most species are not. You might survive." "Might," Sungwoo said. "That is not very comforting." But Tiho had already made his decision. He could feel it in his heart. He needed to know. He needed to remember. If there was even a chance of understanding who he really was, he had to take it. "Do it," he said to Lyra. "Give me back my memories." She moved toward him, her violet eyes filled with both love and worry. "Then sit down," she said softly, "and try not to fight what you see. Let the memories come. Let them become part of you again." She placed her cool hands on his temples. "This will hurt," she warned him, "but I will be with you. I will guide you through the darkness." Tiho closed his eyes. He felt her presence wrap around his mind like a gentle embrace. And then the memories began to flood back, and he fell into a past he had forgotten. The first thing Tiho saw was darkness. Cold, endless darkness that pressed against him from all sides. Then the darkness broke apart, and he fell into his lost past. He was in a metal room. The walls were gray and dirty. The air smelled bad, like old sweat and fear. He was lying on a hard floor and his whole body hurt. His wrists were bound by chains that glowed with a faint red light. He looked around and saw others. Humans, about 30 of them, all chained like him. Some were crying, some were praying, some just stared at nothing with empty eyes. And there were other beings too, pale figures with silver hair and violet eyes. Velith. They sat in the corner, grouped together, their faces full of fear and despair. A door opened and guards walked in. They were not human. They were tall, with gray skin and 4 arms. Their faces had no expression. Their eyes were completely black. Korvax soldiers. One of them pointed at a young Velith girl. She could not have been more than 12 or 13 years old by human standards. The guard grabbed her arm and started dragging her toward the door. The girl screamed. An older Velith woman, probably her mother, tried to stop them, but another guard hit her with something that made blue lightning, and she fell down, unable to move. Without thinking, Tiho stood up. His chains pulled tight, but he did not care. He put himself between the guard and the door. "Let her go," he said. The guard looked at him with those black eyes. There was no anger there, no emotion at all, just cold calculation. "Move," the guard said in broken human language, "or die. If you want her, you go through me first." The guard did not hesitate. He hit Tiho with his weapon. The lightning burned through his body like fire. He fell to his knees, screaming in pain, but he did not move aside. The guard hit him again and again. Finally, another guard spoke in their own language. They seemed to decide that dealing with the fighting human was not worth the trouble. They threw Tiho back against the wall and took a different prisoner instead. When the guards left, Tiho lay on the floor, breathing hard. His whole body was shaking from the electric shocks. But through his blurred vision, he saw the young Velith girl looking at him with wonder in her violet eyes. And he saw another Velith watching him too, a woman with long silver hair and a beautiful face, Lyra. The memory changed. Now he was crawling through a narrow tunnel inside the prison ship. Lyra was beside him, and behind them were dozens of other prisoners. Tiho had spent weeks studying the guards, learning their routines, finding the weak points in the ship's security. He had found a way out, a maintenance tunnel that led to the escape pods. It was small, and the journey was dangerous, but it was their only chance. "Are you sure about this?" Lyra whispered beside him. "No," Tiho admitted, "but I would rather die trying to be free than live as a slave." They reached the escape pod bay. Tiho's fingers flew over a control panel he had memorized from watching guards through cell bars. The door opened. Alarms began to sound. "Everyone get into the pods," he shouted. "Go now." People rushed forward, humans and Velith together, helping each other climb into the small escape ships. Guards appeared at the far end of the bay, weapons raised. Tiho grabbed a metal bar from the wall. He was not trained in fighting. He was an engineer, not a soldier, but he stood his ground anyway. "Get them out," he told Lyra. "I will hold them here." "You will die." "Then I will die free." He looked at her and smiled. "Now go save your people." But Lyra did not go. She stood beside him, her fangs extended, her eyes glowing with power. "My people include you now," she said. "We fight together." The guards charged, and together, a human engineer and a Velith woman fought side by side against impossible odds. The memory changed again. They were on a small moon, hiding in an abandoned building. The escape had worked. Dozens of prisoners were now free, scattered across different safe locations. Tiho and Lyra had ended up here, alone except for a few others who were sleeping in the next room. It had been 3 months since the escape. 3 months of running, hiding, surviving, and in that time something had changed between them. Tiho sat by a window, looking up at unfamiliar stars. Lyra sat next to him. Their shoulders were almost touching. "Why did you help us?" Lyra asked. "You could have just saved the humans. No one would have blamed you." Tiho thought about it. "When I was young, my grandmother told me a story. She said that the measure of a person is how they treat those who cannot help them in return. You and your people had nothing to offer me. You were weak, scared, dying. That is exactly why I had to help." Lyra was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Most species in the galaxy fear us. They think we are parasites, monsters." "Are you?" "No, we love deeply, that is all. Our bonds are spiritual, not predatory. We give strength to our partners. We make them healthier, help them live longer. But to form a bond, we need them to choose us freely. We cannot take what is not given." Tiho turned to look at her. In the starlight, she was beautiful. Not human beautiful, but something deeper. Something that called to a part of him he did not know existed. "Then maybe the galaxy is full of fools," he said. "Because I do not see a monster. I see a woman who fought beside me when she did not have to. I see someone brave and kind and beautiful." Lyra's violet eyes widened. You think I am beautiful. I think you are the most incredible person I have ever met, human or otherwise." He reached out and touched her face. Her skin was cool, smooth, perfect. "Your fangs are cute, by the way," he added. She laughed. It was a small laugh, surprised and soft. It was the first time he had heard her laugh since they met. "You are a very strange human, Kang Tiho." "I know, is that okay?" "It is more than okay." She leaned toward him, and he leaned toward her, and their lips met in a kiss that felt like coming home. The memory changed one final time. They stood in a room of crystal, surrounded by other Velith. Tiho wore white robes. Lyra wore a white dress that seemed to be made of starlight. They held hands facing each other. An elder spoke words in the Velith language. Tiho repeated them in his own voice, guided by the meaning that Lyra sent directly into his heart through their growing bond. "I choose you across all distance," he said. "I choose you through all time. My soul recognizes your soul. What we are together, nothing can separate, not memory, not death, not the darkness between stars." Lyra was crying. Silver tears ran down her pale cheeks. "I never thought anyone would choose me," she whispered. "I never thought I was worthy of love." "You are worthy of everything," Tiho said, "and I will spend the rest of my existence proving it to you." He pulled her close and kissed her, and the Velith around them cheered. And for one perfect moment, he was completely and utterly happy. Then darkness came, and Tiho opened his eyes. He was back in the safe house under the Han River. Lyra still had her hands on his temples. Yuna and Sungwoo were watching with worried faces. Tiho felt tears on his own cheeks. He did not bother wiping them away. "Lyra," he said, and this time her name meant everything. He remembered her laugh. He remembered her courage. He remembered the way she looked at him like he was the only person in the universe who mattered. "You remember," she whispered. "I remember everything." He pulled her into his arms and held her tight. She was shaking. She had waited years for this moment, living with a husband who did not know her, loving a man who had forgotten her face. "I am sorry," he said into her hair. "I am so sorry I left you alone. You did it to protect your world. I could never hate you for that." They held each other for a long moment. Then Sungwoo cleared his throat. "This is very touching," he said, "but we still have alien warships above the city. What do we do now?" Before anyone could answer, a beeping sound came from one of the floating screens. Lyra pulled away and looked at it. Her face became pale. "Someone is coming," she said. "Someone found this place." The entrance tunnel lit up with approaching footsteps. Everyone tensed, ready for a fight. But the person who walked in was not a Korvax soldier. It was a human man in a business suit, looking confused and scared. "Sungwoo," Tiho said, "but you are already here." Everyone looked at Sungwoo standing beside Yuna. Then they looked at the second Sungwoo who had just walked in. The Sungwoo by the entrance smiled. His eyes turned black, and his skin began to ripple like water. "Clever," the fake Sungwoo said in a voice that was not human, but not clever enough. The real Sungwoo screamed and clutched his head. "Something is in me, something is." A red light burst from his temple, a tracking device. The Corvex had planted it in him without anyone knowing. And now they knew exactly where to find them. The walls of the safe house shook as something huge began drilling down from above. The Corvex had arrived. The ceiling cracked open like an egg. Dust and debris fell everywhere. Through the hole, Tiho saw dark figures dropping down on cables. Corvex soldiers, at least 20 of them, armed with weapons that glowed with blue light. The fake Sungwoo laughed. His body twisted and changed, becoming taller with gray skin and 4 arms. A Corvex shapeshifter. "Did you really think you could hide from the Dominion forever?" Lyra moved before Tiho could react. She was faster than anything he had ever seen. Her body blurred across the room, and suddenly 3 soldiers were on the ground, their weapons broken in her hands. "Run," she shouted. "There is a back tunnel, take your sister and go." But Tiho did not run. The memories of his past self filled him now. He remembered fighting. He remembered refusing to give up. He saw a fallen soldier's weapon on the ground and grabbed it. The weapon felt strange in his hands, but his restored memories guided him. He had used these before. He had learned from watching guards for months in that prison cell. His fingers found the trigger. He fired at a soldier who was aiming at Lyra's back. The blue beam hit the soldier's chest and knocked him down. "I am not leaving you again," Tiho shouted at Lyra. "We fight together." She looked at him, and despite everything, she smiled. The next minutes were chaos. Lyra moved like lightning, her Velith strength and speed making her deadly even against armed soldiers. Tiho was slower, clumsier, but he fought with everything he had. He protected Yuna, who had grabbed a metal pipe and was swinging it at anything that came close. The real Sungwoo was on the ground, still clutching his head where the tracking device had been. Tiho grabbed him and pulled him toward the back of the room. "Yuna, help me with him." Together, they dragged Sungwoo toward the back tunnel while Lyra held off the soldiers. But there were too many. For every soldier Lyra knocked down, 2 more dropped from the ceiling. They were going to be overwhelmed. Then Lyra did something unexpected. She opened her mouth and screamed, but it was not a normal scream. It was a sound that seemed to shake the air itself. The soldiers stumbled, clutching their ears. The walls cracked further. And in that moment of chaos, Lyra grabbed Tiho's hand and pulled everyone into the back tunnel. They ran through darkness, guided only by Lyra's glowing eyes. Behind them, they could hear soldiers recovering and giving chase. The tunnel led up and out, opening into a storm drain near the river. Rain was still falling. The night sky was full of those black ships, but there was also something else now. Fire, explosions, the sound of human aircraft. "The military is fighting back," Yuna said in surprise. They found shelter in an abandoned building nearby. Sungwoo was still barely conscious, and Yuna was checking the wound on his head where the tracking device had been. "Will he be okay?" Tiho asked. "I do not know. The device was attached to his brain. We need medical equipment to see the damage." Lyra was standing by the window, watching the sky. "There is a Velith ship hidden in the mountains. It has medical equipment, but it is far from here." "How far?" "Gangwon Province. About 3 hours if we can find transport." Tiho thought quickly. He knew someone who lived in Gangwon, an old college friend who had a small plane. It was a crazy idea, but all of his ideas lately seemed to be crazy. They found a car that still worked and drove through chaotic streets. The world had gone mad. People were running everywhere. Some buildings were on fire. On every screen and phone, news reports were showing the alien ships and demanding answers. It took them 4 hours to reach the mountains. Sungwoo was getting worse. His skin was turning gray and his breathing was shallow. The Korvax tracking device had been poisoning him slowly. The Velith ship was hidden in a cave, covered by technology that made it invisible to human eyes. Lyra uncovered it with a touch, and they all went inside. The medical equipment worked quickly. Yuna, with her training as a medical researcher, was able to use the Velith machines to remove the poison from Sungwoo's blood. By morning, he was stable. But the world outside was getting worse. They gathered around a screen that showed news from around the globe. The Korvax had made an announcement. Their leader appeared on every channel, speaking in perfect human language. People of Earth, we are the Korvax Dominion. We rule over 300 worlds. We come to your planet for one reason, to collect a criminal who is hiding among you. The human called Kang Ti-ho. He is bonded to a Velith parasite and has committed crimes against our empire. Surrender him to us within 12 hours or your entire world will face punishment. Ti-ho felt sick. His existence was putting his entire planet in danger. I should surrender, he said quietly. Lyra grabbed his arm. No, the Korvax do not keep their promises. Even if you give yourself up, they will still destroy Earth. They have decided your species is a threat. They will not leave survivors. Then what can we do? We cannot fight them. Their technology is hundreds of years ahead of ours. Lyra was quiet for a moment. Then she said there might be one way. She brought up a holographic map of Earth's orbit. Among the many satellites circling the planet, one was marked with a Velith symbol. 200 years ago, when my people first discovered Earth, we left something behind. A weapons satellite disguised as space debris. It was meant to protect Earth if the Korvax ever came here. Our people always believed humans were special. We wanted to give you a chance to survive. A weapon, Yuna asked. What kind of weapon? An energy pulse generator. If activated, it can disable all technology within 1,000,000 kilometers. Every Korvax ship would lose power. They would be helpless. Then why have you not used it? Sungwoo asked weakly from his bed. Because the weapon can only be activated by a Velith. Lyra paused. Or by someone bonded to a Velith. The interface requires a connection to Velith life energy. Without that, the machine will not respond. Everyone looked at Ti-ho. Your bond with Lyra changed you, Yuna said slowly. I noticed it when I was treating Sungwoo. Your cellular structure is different from normal humans. You have Velith energy in your body. So I can activate this weapon? Ti-ho asked. Maybe, Lyra said, but the process has never been done by a non-Velith. The interface requires you to merge your mind with an alien system. It could kill you. Ti-ho looked at the holographic map. He looked at his sister, his friend, the woman he loved. He thought about all the people on Earth, all 7 billion of them, living their lives without any idea that their survival depended on what happened in the next few hours. He had made a choice 5 years ago to protect his world. Now he had to make another choice. How do we get up there? He asked. The Velith ship was small, but it could fly. Lyra and Ti-ho would go together. Yuna would stay with Sungwoo on the ground, using the ship's communication equipment to coordinate with Earth's militaries. Before they left, Yuna hugged her brother tightly. Come back alive, she said. That is an order. I will try my best. Lyra piloted the ship up through the atmosphere. Through the windows, Ti-ho could see the Korvax fleet. The black ships were everywhere, forming a ring around the planet. They were so much bigger up close. Each one was the size of a small city. They have seen us, Lyra said, checking her screens. They are sending fighters. Small black ships broke away from the main fleet and headed toward them. But at the same moment, something else happened. From Earth below, missiles launched. Fighter jets rose into the sky. Ships left harbors. It was not enough to defeat the Korvax, but it was enough to distract them. Humanity was fighting back. Ti-ho remembered something from his restored memories. A Corvex commander once said that humans were a minimal threat, easy to conquer, not worth worrying about. They had been wrong. On the Corvex flagship, Admiral Vex watched his tactical screens with growing concern. The human weapons could not truly hurt his ships. Their missiles bounced off Corvex shields like raindrops off stone, but they kept coming, wave after wave of attacks from every nation on the planet. They know they cannot win, his tactical officer said. This is irrational behavior. Admiral Vex was old. He had conquered 30 worlds in his career. He had seen many species fall before the Dominion, but something about these humans made him uneasy. No, he said slowly. It is not irrational, it is defiance. They are buying time. For what? The Admiral pointed at his screen, where a small ship was racing toward an old piece of space debris. For that, find out what that debris really is, and destroy that ship before it reaches it. The Corvex fighters changed course, heading straight for Lyra and Tiho. But Earth's pilots saw them coming. Human jets, so much slower and weaker than Corvex technology, threw themselves between the fighters and the Velith ship. They were shot down one by one, but each sacrifice bought a few more seconds. Tiho watched human pilots die to protect him. Strangers who did not know him. People who just knew that something important was happening and they had to help. Tears filled his eyes. We are almost there, Lyra said. Hold on. The weapons satellite was close now. An ancient piece of Velith technology, disguised as junk for 2 centuries, waiting for this moment. The hatch opened. Tiho unbuckled his harness. Whatever happens, he said to Lyra, I love you. I have always loved you. Even when I could not remember, some part of me knew. Lyra kissed him. It was quick and desperate and full of everything they could not say. Come back to me, she whispered, please. Tiho climbed out of the ship and into the satellite. The moment had come. The inside of the satellite was dark and cold. Tiho floated in zero gravity, pulling himself along crystal walls that began to glow as he touched them. The Velith technology recognized him. It knew what he was, what he carried inside him. He reached the center of the satellite. A chair made of the same crystal sat before a large sphere of light. This was the interface. This was where he had to connect his mind to a machine that was older than any nation on Earth. Through a small window, he could see the battle outside. Corvex fighters were getting closer, but human jets still blocked their path. He saw a Korean fighter take a direct hit and explode into flames. The pilot had ejected, but he was drifting helplessly in space. Tiho sat in the chair. The crystal wrapped around his arms and legs, holding him in place. The sphere of light moved closer. Interface detected, a voice said. It was speaking Velith, but he understood every word. Bonded entity confirmed, beginning neural connection. Light entered his mind. The pain was unlike anything Tiho had ever felt. It was not physical pain, though his body screamed anyway. It was the pain of having his consciousness stretched across an alien system, of being connected to something vast and incomprehensible. He saw the history of the Velith weapon. He saw it being built centuries ago by hands that were not human. He saw the love they had for Earth, for humanity. They had watched humans from afar and seen something special. A species that loved fiercely, fought bravely, and never gave up even when all hope was lost. They had built this weapon not as a gift, but as a test. If humanity ever needed it, they would have to earn it. A human bonded to a Velith would have to survive the interface. It was their way of making sure that humans were truly worthy. Tiho felt himself dissolving. The machine wanted to absorb him, to use his mind as fuel. He was just one small human. What was he compared to the power of an ancient alien weapon? But then he remembered. He remembered his grandmother's stories. He remembered Yuna's face when she was born, so small and red and perfect. He remembered his first day of school, his first broken heart, his first success at work. He remembered every small, ordinary, wonderful moment that made up a human life. He remembered Lyra, her smile, her laugh, her silver tears on their wedding day. He remembered what he had told her. I will spend the rest of my existence proving you are worthy of love. He was not going to break his promise. Not today, not ever. T-Ho stopped fighting the machine. Instead, he filled it with his memories. He showed it what humanity was, not just the wars and the suffering, but the kindness, the art, the music, the way parents sacrificed everything for their children, the way strangers helped each other in disasters, the way humans kept hopping even when hope made no sense. He showed the machine his love for Lyra, not just the romance, but the choice. He had chosen to love someone different from him. He had chosen to see beauty where others saw monsters. He had chosen to give himself completely to another being, knowing it might destroy him. That was what humans did. They chose love even when it was dangerous. They chose hope even when it was foolish. They chose to fight even when they could not win. The machine hesitated. For one long moment, T-Ho hung between life and death. Then the satellite hummed with power, and the weapon activated. A wave of energy burst from the satellite. It was invisible to human eyes, but it spread across space like a ripple in water. It passed through the Korvax ships, and one by one their lights went dark. Their engines stopped. Their weapons powered down. On the flagship, Admiral Vex watched in horror as his entire fleet became helpless. "What is happening?" his tactical officer screamed. "They did it," the admiral said quietly. "The humans actually did it." He sat down heavily in his command chair. 300 years of Korvax conquest, ended by one small human and an alien woman who loved him. "Prepare the evacuation pods," he ordered. "We are leaving this system. We will never return." "Sir, we still have soldiers on the planet." "Leave them. They can surrender to the humans or die. I do not care." The admiral looked at the blue planet below. "This world is not worth the cost of taking it." Back on the satellite, T-Ho collapsed. The chair released him, and he floated limply in zero gravity. He was barely conscious. The interface had taken almost everything from him. Through blurred vision, he saw the hatch open. Lyra was there, pulling herself toward him. "T-Ho, no, no, no," she grabbed him and held him close. "Stay with me, please stay with me." "Did it work?" he whispered. Yes, it worked. The Korvax fleet is disabled. They are retreating." Her silver tears floated around them like stars. "But you are dying. The interface took too much." T-Ho smiled weakly. "Worth it. Earth is safe. You are safe." "No," Lyra held him tighter. "I will not let you die. Not after everything we survived." She pressed her forehead against his. "There is one way, the deepest level of Velith bonding. If I share my immortal life force with you permanently, it will save your life. But it will change you forever. You will not be fully human anymore. You will live as long as I live. You will become something new." T-Ho looked into her violet eyes. Even now, on the edge of death, she was beautiful to him. "Will I still be me?" he asked. "Yes, you will still be Kang T-Ho, but you will also be part Velith, part of me." He reached up and touched her face with trembling fingers. "I was never just human," he said. "From the moment I met you, I became something more. I became yours." He kissed her. It was barely more than a breath against her lips. "Save me," he whispered. "Let me spend eternity proving how much I love you." Lyra closed her eyes. The bond between them, already strong, began to deepen. It grew roots in both their souls, intertwining until they could no longer tell where one ended and the other began. Light surrounded them. T-Ho felt strength returning to his body, not human strength but something else, something older and stranger and more powerful. When the light faded, he opened his eyes. The world looked different now, clearer, more beautiful. He could feel Lyra's emotions as clearly as his own, her relief, her joy, her overwhelming love. "How do you feel?" she asked. He looked at his hands. His skin glowed faintly, like moonlight was shining from inside him. "Alive," he said, "more alive than I have ever been." They kissed again, floating in the satellite above their saved world. 6 months later, everything had changed. Earth was different now. The Korvax soldiers who remained had surrendered. They were being held in special facilities while world governments figured out what to do with them. Scientists were studying the disabled ships, learning technology that would take humanity to the stars. And the Velith had come out of hiding. Thousands of them, refugees who had been living in secret across the galaxy, traveled to Earth when they heard what happened. For the first time in centuries, they had a safe home. Tiho stood on a balcony in Seoul, looking out over the city. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Behind him, he could hear voices and laughter from inside. Sungwoo was there, fully recovered and joking about writing a book about his experiences. Yuna was leading a joint human-Velith medical research team that was already making incredible discoveries. Even some of the Velith survivors Tiho had helped escape years ago had come to visit. Lyra walked out onto the balcony and stood beside him. Her silver hair caught the sunlight, and her violet eyes reflected the beautiful sky. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "Everything," he said. "How much has changed, how strange my life has become." "Do you regret it?" He turned to look at her. In the fading light, he could see the bond between them, a golden thread connecting their hearts. He would see it forever now, a visible reminder of what they shared. "Not for a second," he said. "I would do it all again. The pain, the fear, the fighting, all of it for you." She smiled and leaned against his shoulder. "The galaxy is watching Earth now. They saw what humans did, how you fought against impossible odds, how you refused to surrender even when defeat was certain. Many species are impressed, some are scared." "Good," Tiho said. "Let them be scared. Let them know that Earth is not a world they can bully or threaten. We protect our own." "And we protect you," Lyra added. "The Velith will stand with humanity forever. You gave us a home when we had none. We will never forget that." The door opened behind them, and Sungwoo poked his head out. "Hey, you two. Stop being romantic and come eat. Yuna made dinner, and she is threatening to throw it away if you do not come in right now." Tiho laughed. "We are coming." Before they went inside, Lyra took his hand. Her cool fingers intertwined with his. "I love you," she said. "Across all distance, through all time, my soul recognizes your soul." "And mine recognizes yours," he replied. "Always." They walked inside together, into warmth and light and the company of family. Behind them, the stars were coming out. The same stars Tiho had crossed to find his love. The same stars that humanity would soon explore, no longer alone, no longer afraid. The galaxy had learned something about humans that day. They were not a species that surrendered. They were not a species that forgot. They were a species that loved so fiercely, so completely, that even the darkness between stars could not keep them apart. And that was the most human thing of all. Somewhere in the night sky, Velith ships were arriving, bringing more refugees to their new home. Human telescopes tracked alien signals for the first time. Children looked up and dreamed of adventures among the stars. A new era had begun. And it had started with a man who woke up one rainy night and discovered that his wife was waiting for him at the end of the universe. The end.